she's still gonna move forward with this movie that she's working on. But yeah, I just feel like
well, as of now, there's a lot of talk about that.
Now a bunch of stuff is up in the air, I guess.
And I really think if people start pressing this Travis Brown issue, I think a lot of...
Now, is he a fighter?
He's a heavyweight fighter, yeah. He at one point was number 3, I believe number 3 or number 4 in the world. Here lately, he's lost 2 or 3 fights in a row, and now he's probably out of the top 10. But I think all of that stuff. Ben Rothwell, actually another heavyweight fighter, right after Ronda lost that fight, tweeted, "You can blame that loss on Travis Brown." So the MMA community is well aware of the Travis Brown, and you know there's been articles that have come up now saying Ronda Rousey was never mad at Mayweather because he was a domestic violence offender. Mm-hmm. She was mad at him because he didn't know who she was. So it's a lot of things coming up now that are starting to look at, is Ronda even the darling that the world made her out to be? And I really think that this Travis Brown thing could ultimately be a huge obstacle in her moving forward. And I think that Dana White has already said in making that fight at the 200 UFC 200, I believe is in, I think it's maybe in March or April.
I thought it was June, possibly.
Is it that far out? Yeah, okay, yeah. So he's already made it. He's already said, you know, that's the fight, and everybody has already said that Dana has this huge love for Ronda Rousey. You know, he said women wouldn't work. She made the women, in some people's eyes, the biggest show in the MMA.
Definitely made them relevant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, and then the funny thing was, I saw a clip of her on a nighttime talk show. It might have been Fallon, but she called out that she was gonna move around a lot, kick me in the head. She's gonna try. She just seemed to be so dismissive of everything. And then I saw another video of her sitting in a gym, an empty gym with 100 reporters or something, and she was just casually talking to the media and saying how she was like, I don't understand how a fighter starts thinking like this, but she's like, well, I'm happy to see Holly make this money, whereas usually I hate to see these girls get paid to fight me, but I think she'll be happy when she gets her, and I'm paraphrasing some of it, but she basically went on to say that she's going to get her little contender check. She's going to be happy with being a contender. She can buy her little New Mexico or Albuquerque house, and she'll realize that she's really not about this championship, this champion life like I am, and being out here with all of you guys. She really doesn't want that. So she was just speaking, real flippantly about what was coming on. And that's another thing. I know you're a big time physique body guy when it comes to looking at fighters. Holly's how hard she looks.
About that, I've read rumors on that as she's taking anabolic steroids.
Wow, no, you know the MMA game more. No, I wasn't. No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying she just looked more hungry.
From a physical standpoint, I've always questioned Ronda's, but that's what I was telling somebody else. I said I would almost tell my fighter to run for a round or two, just so we can see what kind of shape Ronda's in. Right. Obviously, when you first get in the ring, everybody's dry. Exactly. So if she gets her hands on you in the first 20 seconds, she has a very, very much likely chance of getting you down. Miesha Tate said the one thing about Ronda Rousey, she said when she gets her hands on you, you can't get out.
Exactly.
So I would tell my fighter, you know what, them first three minutes of the first round, jab, run. We just want to see what happens to her when she gets in the second round. And at the end of the first round, she looked lost. She looked exhausted. She looked like she was frustrated.
She didn't want to be there.
Yeah, and like I said, they've said a lot of stuff, and that's another thing that I question about the mom. The mom may know or see some of the stuff they're doing in training, and she's probably like, we're not conditioning. You're not training her with the for longevity, and I don't know. I think I'm interested to see what they do, because in a lot of ways, Ronda seemed like she had some things brewing to make an exit.
Right.
And now that she's lost, you know, there was Misha Tate said something. She tweeted something about you can lose, and that was almost that was the way that she looked at the women. She said Misha Tate, just wait till I retire and then you'll have a chance. You know, the Correa lady was saying I'm going to retire undefeated, and she's like, no, I'm gonna be the one that's. So, you know, obviously she was counting, you know, the fights down the road well before she got in the ring for this one,
right?
And
that's always a bad perspective. Absolutely. Like you said, when you're taking meetings with Hollywood, you're taking meetings for endorsements and commercials, you're doing the video shoots. The one dress that I saw her wearing on the nighttime show that had the deep neck on it. When you start doing all this stuff that's out of character, I just think that's just letting me. And then on the flip side, on the B side of it, this opponent, just like Tarver said with Roy Jones, I've been training to fight you my whole life. You've been my one goal. And when you were sent to the position that Ronda was at, and like I said, you're entertaining all of these other dealings and affairs and career stuff outside of the ring, and Holly is sitting over here in this, you know, partially empty gym, you know, looking at going to sleep, looking at this picture of you in the mirror at night. It's hard to beat somebody with that singular focus when it comes to fight night. And I don't know if it was Cormier, but it was one of the men fighters who suggested that Ronda probably seen the last of Ronda.
Rashad Evans.
Yeah, okay.
Rashad Evans. He said it was just too much going on, all the controversy. I will say what you just said about her whole career. In regards to Holly Holm, she was an elite person with the stand-up game. Right. So she could almost afford to take time from the stand-up game to focus on sprawling, escaping, guards, a spider guard, different ways to posture up, to get out, how to protect your arm. Whereas other fighters, they have to train every element to maintain, just to be able to hang in there. She already knew I could walk away from the boxing side for a few hours every day. I could walk away from the kickboxing side every day and focus. That's what they were saying. Winkle John, they said, or Greg Jackson, they said that since the day she's shown up, they've been teaching her how to defeat Ronda by avoiding Ronda's traps. Right. And you can spend so much time focusing on that stuff, knowing that she's already good in the striking. Right. So when you talk about the perfect opponent, it very well could have been. I don't know if I think it's the end of Ronda. I hope it's not. I'm not a Ronda fan, but I definitely don't want to see that one loss be the end of. But it's funny because I feel like Anderson Silva never really got a chance to.
With Weidman.
Yeah, you know, when his leg was broken, and he came back and he had the next fight, then all the steroid or what was it? He had the positive test, and then he talking about fighting in the Brazil and karate and the next Olympics. He's trying to do that. So
interesting. We
may never see. Well, you know, he's always been a big fan. You remember he trained with Steven Seagal, and he's always he's. I don't know if you ever saw that Blood Like Water. The Anderson Silva. I mean, he's definitely a very
eclectic dude.
Yes, you know, he sees things. He's not that war machine guy that just gets in there wanting to knock your head off. I remember in one of his early fights when he beat the crippler Chris Lieben. It was a fight that it was his intro to the UFC, and after he knocked him out, he said, he was so disrespectful. And I'm thinking, it's fighting, isn't everybody disrespectful? But that's never been Anderson Silva. Right. And in Ronda's defense, you know, to be as dominant as she is. And I also am kind of sad because the Cyborg fight is probably not of any interest to Dana White now. Right. If anything, she comes back, let's say she beats Holm, we know there's a 3. So he's looking at her next 2 fights are locked up with Holly Holm. If she wins, she's in there for a 3rd one. Cyborg is pretty much out the picture, and I really do think Cyborg is one heck of a fighter.
See, and that's like you said. I mean, that was the same. I don't know if Carano was on that level, but I mean, she was doing some big things in her moment.
Yep.
And then as soon as things fell apart for her, like you said, she had a plan B or an exit strategy. And then, in the last couple of years, she flirted around coming back to the sport. But it's just like, I just feel like with Ronda, that mystique has been broken.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see. I just hope it doesn't end like that. And it's kind of what my article that I'm working on. I thought it was bad for her not to speak in the ring, and I'm only saying that for the simple fact, when you don't touch gloves with your opponent before the fight, and then all the stuff that she did leading up to the fight, for your supporters and your haters, I thought she should have said something that night. I know they took her to the hospital. Maybe this blow to the head was more significant than what I'm thinking it was. But I'm just saying, and I'll finish up so we can move on to this last topic. When I look at somebody like Lennox Lewis, the way that he handled the knockout to Hakeem Rahman, he really gave you a lot of confidence that don't get used to my belt. I'm coming right back for it. I had a bad night tonight, and we gonna make this fight happen, and then in the rematch, Rahman was shook from the minute the bell rung, and I'm just saying, I felt like this was a chance for Ronda to kind of have that, lay the foundation for the second fight, and be honest with yourself, I was a little off my game tonight. Right. I'll be back. But now when you go the route that she did, and then she did come back and on Instagram and said something.
Somebody said something.
Right, somebody did. I just think, like I said, I just feel like she's lost some of that mystique. And now, like to your point, the game plan has been made to make her move more than normally and try to stretch the fight out. I think Misha was able to go 3 rounds, right? Yeah, yep. So she made her move a lot, but it was still a lot of grappling. It was a lot of on the ground stuff, and it wasn't a lot of lateral movement and using the whole octagon the way that Holly did. So yeah, I hope
and to Misha's credit, she was an elite wrestler,
right?
So you could see that she could withstand some of those grapples and some of that stuff from a standpoint of wrestling, but eventually, you just wear out and you just get tired and break down. And she could never get her off.
Exactly. She could never get her offense off. She just was in constant defense mode the whole time.
And her strength played right into Ronda's strength. If I go to take you down, I'm now exposed to the armbar. Right. So it was like, I got to figure out how I can win this fight without using my strength.
Right.
And moving and striking is not her strength.
Exactly. So, yeah, like I said, I was down in Florida when the reports came, when the tweets came out about the world being, shocked, the fighting world being shocked at this loss. So we'll see what happens. It's interesting that a lot of these fights happen on foreign soil. This was in Australia. Lennox Lewis lost his first match to Hakeem Rahman in Africa. Obviously, Mike Tyson lost his in Tokyo to Buster Douglas. But like I said, I really looked at this like Sugar Shane Mosley and Winky Wright. That was the comparison that came to my mind. But tomorrow, we get back to sorting out this playoff situation in college football. That's what we'll finish with. Bear with me another few minutes. But we have number 9, Michigan State Spartans going up against the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes at Ohio Stadium. I think that's tomorrow at 3:30. Last year, Michigan State lost in East Lansing 37-49. This is an interesting matchup. It's pretty much going to be maybe only the 3rd or 4th biggest game of the season, really, in all of college football. And just to run through a couple things before you get into your thoughts, it's kind of embarrassing for the Big Ten, man, that Ohio State has a 30 game, has won 30 straight Big Ten games. Conference games, and then they're on a win streak of 23 games. And I mean, for them not to be playing the biggest out of conference games, I'm almost wanting Michigan State to win just for there to be some type of parity or the appearance of some parity. But how do you see this playing out tomorrow?
You hit it on the head. This is probably the most unamused I could ever be for a matchup of two top 10 teams.
Right.
I look at Ohio State, and part of me says that's what y'all get. Because last year, I remember